Hi, welcome to the Facts series. A new episode is released every week, so be sure to check back often. Like and subscribe to get notified of every video. Also check other series released once a week. Today's fact is about the ancient technologies that science can't explain. Between the mysterious earthquake detector surrounded by bronze toads and the simple clay pot which can be an electric battery. Here are the ancient technologies that science can't explain. 1. The Baghdad Battery, unexplained ancient technology. An archaeologist by the name of Wilhelm Koenig was conducting excavations one day in the 1930s in the locality of Kudat Rabu in Baghdad, Iraq. He discovered a curious object, a clay pot about 10 centimeters long, closed at the top by a bitumen plug from which an iron rod protrudes. The composition of the object surprised the archaeologist because in his eyes, it was almost in every way a rudimentary electric battery. Indeed, the rod was contained in a copper cylinder insulated at the base by a bitumen buffer. To create electrical voltages, only two elements were needed, conductive wires and an acid. Even if the voltages produced by such an object would be very low, it would nevertheless be the oldest electric battery ever discovered, since it dates from the 3rd century. Such a bizarre object. However, Wilhelm Koenig has against him many scientists who refute his hypothesis. According to them, this bizarre object is simply a vase designed to contain and transport scrolls, and that it is a pure coincidence that it looks like a pile. The function of this pottery is still debated to this day. Was it an early form of electrochemical device or a sophisticated wallet? 2. The Stone Aqueduct of Camamea, Peru. In Peru, 20 kilometers southwest of the city of Cajamarca, is one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in the world, and one of the first technological achievements of primitive humanity. This is the Camamea Aqueduct, built at 3,500 meters above sea level in a volcanic region. But this is not the only beauty of the site, as we will see. More than 3,000 years ago, long before the appearance of the Incas, lived a discreet, ingenious, and skillful community. This primitive society lived on the productions of the earth, but the recurrent drought that hit the country greatly affected agricultural activities. A very mysterious ancient technology. The inhabitants of the region then had the idea of designing one of the first hydraulic systems in the world. They undertook this project with modest means, using a common and rudimentary tool, volcanic rocks. Using this type of rock, called obsidian, they dug an aqueduct more than 9 kilometers long. This work was intended to divert water from the hills and bring it to arable land, and it was a complete success. As these people were imbued with religion, they were not content to make a purely useful construction. They also built stairs that lead to a ceremonial altar and carved intricate and enigmatic designs into the volcanic rocks. These designs, like the aqueduct, still exist today. They are studied by archaeologists, but they still have not managed to penetrate the mysterious meaning. These figures and symbols are not yet elucidated. However, the Camamea Aqueduct remains a concrete and obvious marvel of the practical genius of primitive humanity. 3. Jain monuments. Jainism is a religion quite similar to Buddhism and which is practiced by a minority of Indians. This form of spirituality was born in the 10th century BC and has continued until today. It was around the 15th century that Jainism became famous for its formidable artistic conceptions, which have nothing to envy to the most sublime buildings in history. In the states of Rajasthan and Gujarat in India, there are monumental sculptures, which can measure 17 meters high, in caves which contain around 30 temples. One of these is most are the dimensions of the idols, carved from the same rock, and which represent the traditional deities of the religion. Incredible monumental sculptures. Most of them were built during the reign of a generous king and his successor's son in the 15th century. But in the 16th century, a powerful emperor ordered their destruction. Fortunately, these giant statues did not suffer irreparable damage. Only a few had their limbs amputated. However, the Jain community was able to repair the losses. Today, the site is protected, and tourists can admire these prodigious divinities. 4. The Sakura bird, a mysterious ancient technology. Have you ever heard of the mysterious story of the Sakura bird? It is one of the most enigmatic objects that scientists have been able to discover. In 1898, Dr. Kala Messiha, an Egyptian archaeologist, undertook an excavation in a burial in Sappho. He discovered by chance a figurine of a bird, small and light, but whose shape was curious. It was almost entirely a bird except for the wings, which are those of a modern jet plane. These wings are made from a single piece of wood, thick in the middle and thin at the ends. The edge of the wings is very slightly inflected. These significant details suggest that more than 2 millennia ago, the Egyptians had some advanced knowledge of aerodynamics. This is why such an object has disconcerted Egyptologists, giving rise to a host of interpretations and controversies. Moreover, it has been proven that this object could fly for a few meters when thrown manually in the air. Maybe this bird was just the preconceived model of a great machine, which the engineers of the time had to design. Scientific opinions are divided. Some maintain that the resemblance of this bird to an airplane is purely fortuitous, and others imagine that the Egyptian genius was technologically more advanced than we would like to believe. 5. The Voynich Manuscript. In 1912, in a library in the town of Frascati, Italy, a Polish antiquarian, Wilfred M. Voynich, accidentally got his hands on a strange and unique book. It is a vellum manuscript comprising at least 200 pages and containing texts and images. So far, nothing out of the ordinary. But imagine that the language used in this book, its genre, its author, its content, completely unknown to date. The only proven thing is that the work was written in the 15th century. This manuscript, to which the Polish antiquarian gave his name, is a succession of question marks which will probably never be answered. The book still remains a great mystery. Despite the continuous efforts of the most seasoned cryptographers, it has never been known if this book was a treatise on alchemy, a treatise on herbal medicine, an occult work, or simply a kind of big joke. The language of the Voynich manuscript obeys a coded system, but no specialist has been able to decipher it. We even begin to believe that this language has absolutely no meaning. All the linguists who rub shoulders with it lose their Latin and end up giving up, concluding that it is surely a sham. All interpretations have been made, from the most reasoned to the most eccentric. For example, the antique dealer Voynich was even suspected of having made it, which is certainly wrong. To date, the meaning of this dark manuscript is not yet pierced. Maybe it will one day. If this happens, it will certainly be a triumph of the spirit of scientific analysis. 6. The Roman dodecahedron, whose use remains unexplained. In several European countries, individuals or researchers have discovered several objects similar to each other, called dodecahedrons. They are of Roman origin, and their manufacture probably dates back to the first centuries of the Christian era. These Roman dodecahedrons are objects of geometric shape. They are either bronze or stone and have 12 faces, each of which is pierced with a circular hole. Another mysterious ancient technology. What use could these objects, which are widespread in Italy, France, Germany, Hungary, and England, be used for? No document allows to know it. This mystery has given rise to many speculations. It has been thought to be an astronomy tool, a candlestick, a board game piece, a decorative object, or a religious relic. At present, none of these hypotheses is more plausible than the others. The function of the Roman dodecahedrons remains a complete mystery, which does not prevent them from being exhibited in several museums. 7. The Chinese earthquake detector. Chinese inventor Zhang Heng was an accomplished man of genius. Born in the year 78, this eminent man was what one could be in the field of arts and sciences. Mathematician, astronomer, geographer, statesman, but also poet and specialist in Chinese literature, Zhang Heng had every chance of leaving an impression on posterity with his work and his discoveries. But if he is famous today, it is for a daring invention which he had the idea. He wanted to design an instrument to predict and identify the occurrence of an earthquake. He set to work and produced this machine of a strange aesthetic. This earthquake detector resembles a vase attached to a receptacle and complicated with bizarre ornaments. A great mystery. This tool is actually much more complex than it looks. It features 8 dragons on the surface with their heads facing downwards, which mark the directions of the primary compass. In front of each dragon sits a bronze toad with a gaping mouth. With each detected earthquake, depending on its location, one of the dragons propels a metal ball directly into the mouth of the toad facing it. The noise corresponds to a signal which alerts the people present that an earthquake has occurred within a radius of several hundred kilometers. This is what happened in the year 138. While the detector was placed in the royal palace, one of the dragons had spat out the ball, so as to warn that an earthquake had occurred. And despite the disbelief of those present, it was confirmed, a few days later, thanks to a messenger, that an earthquake had indeed occurred in the western region of Long. What increased the admiration of the public towards Zhang Heng? Today's seismographs are, of course, much more developed, but none equals this Chinese invention in beauty. 8. Ulfert's legendary swords. All Viking enthusiasts know the legendary swords of Ulfert. These blades, terrible and coveted by all illustrious warriors, deserve their place here, for they surpassed in quality and power all other swords of the medieval world. The first makers of these swords had the idea of importing steel from India or Persia, where the quality of the material was incomparably superior. Their name Ulfert was certainly that of the founder of the workshop where such weapons were made. These powerful and indestructible swords won over the warriors who used them so much that the Ulfert inscription had become a kind of prestigious mark. Incomparable characteristics. Kings and glorious fighters desired this sword as an aid to their greatness. Besides, only the wealthiest could acquire it. They cost the equivalent of a small castle. According to specialists, these weapons were of such superior quality that it was not until the 18th century that swords with comparable characteristics were finally seen. As with all rare and expensive items, there were many counterfeits circulating in Europe. But it was easy for a warrior to compare them and identify the false sword. Ulfert's swords remain shrouded in myth to this day, and no doubt we do not yet know all the secrets they conceal. 9. The Iron Pillar of Delhi. In the north of India is an old construction dating from the 5th century. It is called the Iron Pillar of Delhi. This pillar, which measures more than 7 meters, fascinates metallurgy specialists for 2 reasons. The first is that this metal column is composed of 99.72% pure iron. However, such purity of material was only observed in the West after the Industrial Revolution. The second reason is that this pillar resists corrosion and rust admirably, yet it is located in a region very subject to monsoon rains. According to the analyses, this impermeability is explained by the thick layer of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen practiced on the pillar on purpose, like a protective film. Scientists are amazed. According to one of them, this pillar is a living testimony to the skill of the metalworkers of ancient India. But this column has not only suffered the rigors of the climate. Indeed, if one examines well, at mid-height, one notices a very perceptible crack. This is obviously the impact of a cannonball. Historians agree that a Persian emperor had ordered its demolition in the 18th century for religious reasons before abandoning the idea. But this pillar will always continue to fascinate scientists, and particularly archaeologists, because it is one of the few monuments prior to the Islamization of the locality. 10. Yangshan's career, the Great Mystery. In China, near the city of Nanjing, there is an old stone quarry called the Yangshan Quarry. It has been exploited since the first centuries of the Christian era and is today a tourist and historical site. This career provided an immense quantity of stones, intended for the construction of the monuments which transformed the aspect of the area. But if this site is so well known and visited today, it is because of the huge commemorative stele found there. The construction of this stele was abandoned. It was to measure nearly 70 meters high. In full realization of the works, the project was abandoned because it was materially impossible that such colossal stones to be transported, collected, and installed. One of the highest Chinese stela measures by comparison 17 meters. This project was too ambitious and had to be canceled. Despite this, the quarry, as well as the incomplete stele, remain remarkable and worthy of admiration. Thus ends our article. We hope you liked it. And tell us in the comments which of these historical inventions fascinate you the most.